Hello, hello. How are you? Ultimate Baby Sleep Group here. It is 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, what is the date today? Today is March, I don't even know the date, March 29th. We are here today going through this week's thread. If you are new to the group, what we do is every Monday we have a specific theme and a specific question thread, and we ask our questions there. This week's theme was ask your questions about siblings and bedtime. And how it works is every Monday we have a question, and on Wednesdays I come in and I discuss the ideas. Sometimes I pick specific questions and answer them. Sometimes I just talk generally about different ideas. So this week we got a few questions and I want to run through them and talk about them. But the biggest and most important thing that you need to understand, and by the way guys, I'm doing this in my new office. I have to show you, totally blank. There are no pictures on the wall. I have to decorate it, but it's very exciting. Until then, I was kind of working at different places in my house. I've been in a few different offices, so very excited. You'll have to let me know what you think of it once we get it all set up. Anyway, so the biggest thing I wanted to discuss here with siblings, with bedtime, is a common theme I saw in a lot of the questions that you were all asking. It's all about juggling, right? It's like a juggling act, of the balancing act of this one has to go to sleep, this one's waking up that one, if they're sharing a room, this one doesn't know how to sleep through that one's noises. It's all really comes down to a main point. I'm going to go through and answer the questions here, but the most important thing to understand is that you have to set yourself up properly so you can be consistent with what you do. And I know I talk about this a lot, talked about it a lot in last week's video, of the idea of planning things out properly. And the most important thing you can do with siblings and bedtime, honestly, in most cases, I very strongly recommend that you stagger bedtime. You know, if you have, and I saw in a lot of the questions here, let's say Carrie here with your question, I'll read your question in a minute. If you have your 4-year-old that's going to sleep at 7 o'clock and then you're dealing with your 4-month-old at the same time and they both have to go to bed at 7 o'clock, you're one person, you're trying to split yourself into two places. It's a technical failure. You're not going to do well putting either one to sleep. They're both going to get wired. This one's going to get overtired and you're going to be a constant game of back and forth, and it's not going to work. Even if you have someone's help at that time, whether it's a husband or a partner or a friend or someone, it still doesn't always work because at the end of the day, they just want mommy, especially at bedtime. So what I recommend doing for sure is staggering bedtime, just as a general rule. And I do this when I work one-on-one with families, when they contact me with a few kids, because you want to make it set up in a way where bedtime does not have to be this intense power struggle. Bedtime does not have to be this thing that everyone dreads with this like dark cloud of impending doom. In my house, I view that bedtime as the sweetest hour, really. I have a bunch of kids, and we do youngest to oldest. That's what works for me. Doesn't mean that's going to work for you. I start with the 2-year-old, and then I go to the 5-year-old, and then I go to the 7-year-old, and then I go to the 9-year-old, and then the 11-year-old, and then we go, yeah, we have a few. And then we go to every kid, and everyone knows when you get older, you get to stay awake a little longer. And with each child, I spend a good 10 minutes or so with that child, talking about their day, doing things they like. Some kids don't like to talk. Some kids like when I sit there and massage them. Some of my kids like when I sit there and talk and tell them about my day. Some kids want to talk and have me listen. The point is that it should be an enjoyable experience for both of you. And the other kids, mind you, they're a little bit older. I don't have a bunch of babies, but the other kids don't sit there coming in and out of the room and bothering me and trying to get my attention, because they know that they're going to have their special time with mommy also. And even if you have just a bunch of little kids and you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, or a lot of you here, one of you wrote you have a 3-year-old and a baby, your 3-year-old's old enough to understand, listen, sit here, color, sit here, listen to some tapes, or sit here and even help me put the baby to bed. But it should be that you stagger it in such a way that you know who's going to sleep at what time, so you can technically set yourself up to be successful, because otherwise you're going to be running around like a chicken without a head, not able to tackle anyone's bedtime, and it's going to be a free-for-all. So it's all about that. Now again, that's on the prerequisite foundation that you have a good routine set up to begin with. So if you don't have a good nap time set up, if you don't have a good bedtime routine, if you don't have a good wind down routine, then obviously you're not going to be able to set the stage properly to have a consistent bedtime, to have a predictable bedtime, and to have a smooth and positive bedtime. So step one is obviously go back, watch the videos on nap time. Go back and watch all the videos on setting up a proper daytime sleep, on bedtime battles, all those things. Because if you don't have that set up, you can't approach bedtime expecting like to magically wave your wand and have it be perfect, because it's not going to be. So that's for sure. Now let's just go through some of the questions here, and we will talk about them. I don't know if I'm going to have time to go through everyone's questions, but you will start seeing a theme with a few different people. All right, Carrie. Just in general, what's the best way to juggle? Exactly, it's a juggling act, Carrie, right? My 4-year-old relies on me tucking her in, helping her with PJs, brushing her teeth, reading a book, and snuggle. We are in a temporary routine for now since my 4-month-old doesn't yet fall asleep on her own. So I have to put my 4-year-old to bed first, and my 4-month-old hangs out in the room, probably later than she should be, anywhere from 7 to 8 while I tuck in my 4-year-old. Okay, then my husband reads the 4-year-old a book, and she goes to sleep when you scoot out to the 4-month-old and put her to bed. Okay, so once I teach my 4-month-old how to sleep on her own, I'll put her to bed first and have my husband do it. But you'd like to know some general suggestions for juggling bedtime, so I can keep that in mind when I establish a more long-term routine. And Carrie, this is an awesome question because this is exactly what we're talking about. How to juggle it in such a way where you can consistently and predictably have things set up. Because if you know you're putting your 4-year-old to bed because you're the only one home, and your 4-month-old's kind of hanging out, but while your 4-month-old's hanging out, your 4-month-old's getting drastically overtired, missing that ideal time for bedtime, and making it even harder, then obviously it's kind of only halfway working. So why not put your 4-month-old to bed first and have your 4-year-old help with your 4-month-old? They don't go to bed by themselves. They need your help. Have it be a process. Let your 4-year-old feel so big that they're helping you put your 4-month-old to bed. Or try to set things up in a way where maybe your husband can come home a little earlier, help you with bedtime. If that's not an option, try to do whatever you possibly can to set yourself up technically. Because if you don't, then you're going to always be doing this juggling act of this one, the 4-year-old, the 4-month-old. The 4-year-old's going to sleep, but the 4-month-old's getting overtired. It's going to be a constant game and a constant back and forth, and you're not going to see success with anything that you do. Okay, Chrissy, I see that you asked a very long question. If I have time, I will get back to you, but this thread is specifically about siblings and bedtime. I didn't see that written in here. Definitely go through, watch some of the other questions that we have here, some of the other videos, ask your question in a separate post so we can get to you. And I'll tell you about how I can help you get that sleep in a few minutes if you are interested in working with me to do that. But let's just see. Ashley, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. Their rooms are right next to each other and neither of them sleep through the night. Okay, so it's a pajama party basically. Let's start with your 8-month-old. He's still waking up anywhere between 1 and 4 times at night. I can't let him cry or whimper for too long, otherwise he wakes up your 3-year-old. So I've either been going in there to give him his pacifier or ultimately feed him if he starts wailing. Not sure what to do from here. That's your 8-month-old. And Ashley, you and I actually spoke yesterday, so I really know what's going on because we spoke about this in depth. Now, my 3-year-old, we lay with him in his bed until he falls asleep, and then he's back up for a couple hours later, yelling for one of us to go cuddle with him if we don't get in there fast. He wakes up our 8-month-old. How do we get him to stay asleep? Okay, so this is a really good question, and Ashley, like I said, you and I talked about this a lot yesterday. I hope I get to help you do this because I'm going to outline a few ideas for you and for anyone else who's watching just in case it will help you kind of apply some of the things that we're talking about. The most important thing, like I said, is setting yourself up technically because you can't split yourself to be in 2 places. And Ashley, you and I talked a lot yesterday. When you have 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids or however many kids that are giving you a difficult time with sleep, bedtime, night wake-ups, early rising, napping, I always tell people, and Ashley and I discuss this, I always tell people divide and conquer, right? What does that mean? You can't, if you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to be successful with anything that you do. You work on your 3-year-old, you're working on your 8-month-old, you're doing this, you're doing that. You're going to be like half here, half there and not be successful with anything that you do. I always tell parents, divide and conquer, right? Pick the kid that is draining you the most. The one that when you're writing this up, your question to me, or you're emailing me, or you're about to wake up in the morning and you have to remind yourself that you love that child because you're feeling so frustrated, or you're dreading, you always have that one kid that is like getting into your emotions, that's draining you, that's taking you for a ride, that's the one like you really need to work on their sleep. So pick that one first. Once you get that one sleeping, getting to sleep on their own, falling asleep on their own, sleeping through the night, then you can work on the next kid. Because if you try to work on them both simultaneously, you're going to bite off more than you can chew and not be successful. Ashley, we talked a lot about different ideas of what you can do to actually do that. But that's for anyone. If you're having issues here more than just bedtime itself, and you're having issues with night wake-ups, do whatever you can to make yourself successful by really compartmentalizing it. Because like anything we do in life, we try to do 1,000 things at once. You'll try to start the laundry and throw in a load in the dishwasher and help your kid with homework. Like you feel like you're flying and you're not really doing a good job at anything. Do one task, finish it, and then move on to the next one. So that's what the goal is with sleep also. Heather, same thing for you. Your 3.5-year-old. She takes melatonin because we were spending hours to get her to bed at night. Okay, so that's more of an issue of falling asleep and wanting someone to stay with her. And there's a lot you can do to help Heather, to help her independently learn how to settle her own body to sleep and transition back to sleep. And we talked about that in a video a few weeks ago about bedtime battles and getting rid of sleep dependencies. There's a lot that you can do. Okay, now Heather, you asked a question about your 6-month-old. Okay, so your 6-month-old's in bed by 8. Can't last past then. But your 3-year-old goes to bed around 8:30 or 9. She's so loud, she wakes up the baby. Their rooms share a wall, and they're right next to each other. We have fans going and music, and you want them to have a more similar schedule. Okay, it's hit or miss who will sleep through the night. Right, okay, so first start with bedtime. And Ashley, you had asked this also. What do you do when you have maybe one kid sleeping better, one kid not sleeping as well, and they're waking one another up at night? That can get really sticky sometimes, right? Because you don't want, especially if they're sharing a wall, or even better or worse, depending on how you want to look at it. What if they're sharing a room and this kid is sleeping really soundly and this kid's crying and calling for mommy and waking the other one up, and then it becomes an all-night battle of this one waking that one, waking this one, waking that one. I want you to know, someone actually just asked me this. They sent me an article about how modern day culture and the Western civilization is all about independent sleeping, and really, years and years and years ago, people used to room share, and we all know, back in the olden days, families used to share in one big room together. How does that work, and what's kind of changed? Kids are a lot more adaptable than we give them credit for, okay? They really, really are. Children will learn to sleep through noise. They will learn to sleep through siblings' coughings and siblings making noise and calling out for mommy. The problem is, parents, we kind of hover over them, and we jump at the second that we're very nervous they're going to wake someone else up, and it kind of takes away that ability to really transition to sleep more independently because we're so nervous harping on the fact that they're going to wake someone up. So yes, set yourself up with music and with fans and with white noise and with this and with that. Not as a dependency, but just to lull out extra noise. But children will learn to sleep through siblings' noises a lot more if you give them the opportunity to do so. Okay, I am a big sleep nerd. I read sleep studies a lot just because I find it interesting. And I was reading something, I think it was a few years ago, about how in certain countries people have tons of kids and they live in really teeny tiny apartments. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms. And sometimes they'll have a lot of kids in one room. So even though, and they compare that to someone in America in their big mansions with their 1.2 children and their 5 dogs, which kid is getting more sleep? The kids that are in really crowded environments, room sharing with tons of noise in really small sleeping spaces, or kids who are sleeping in silence in their own rooms. And it was really interesting. The kids who sleep alone, with silence, without noise, without disturbances, they might actually get more sleep in quantity, but the quality of their sleep is a lot less because every little noise shifts them, wakes them. Every little sound, a phone ringing, a doorbell, someone else in the house coughing, a dog barking, that rouses them from their sleep because they're used to sleeping in silence, because that's what their body has become acclimated to sleeping in, as opposed to these kids who are sharing a bunch of rooms, who are sharing rooms with a bunch of siblings, and there's someone going in and someone going out and someone talking. They might go to sleep later, they might wake up earlier, but the quality of their sleep is significantly more restorative and deeper because they sleep through noise. They sleep through sounds, they sleep through shuffling, they sleep through all these things. So it's not always a bad thing to allow your child to have the opportunity to sleep through noise. Because like I said, when you are so nervous, you're going to jump in and prevent them from being woken up. If you give them the opportunity, they will be a lot more adaptable, okay? And that's just food for thought in general. Heather again. Those are all the questions, I think. Yeah, those are all the questions. So that's just kind of a rundown in terms of room sharing or siblings and bedtime. It's all about staggering, and it's all about not dreading it, and it's all about making sure that you could do whatever you can to keep it positive, because when you are nervous about it, or you're not technically set up well, or you don't have a proper bedtime set up, then obviously things are not going to move smoothly. So sit back and think about these things. Do you have 1 kid? Do you have 2 kids? Do you have 3 kids? What's the story going on here? What time does the 4-year-old need to go to sleep? What time does the baby need to go to sleep? Who's getting more overtired? Who needs more attention? Do I have someone to help me do this? Do I not? Can I enlist the 4-year-old's help to put the baby to sleep and feel big and be part of the process? Do I need the baby to kind of wait a few minutes so I can give the 4-year-old some more attention? Balance it out and make a game plan so you can deal with one child put them to bed, deal with the next child. We talked a lot about, kids waking each other up at night and room sharing and teaching them to be more adaptable. It's all about those things. At the end of the day, you have to do what you can to help your kids because sleep is so critical for their immune system, for their functionality. Sleep is important to you as the parent so that way you can function, you can have energy. I can't even tell you how many emails I get from desperate moms telling me they have no energy at work, or they wish they could wake up in the morning and exercise. They don't have a relationship with their partner. They're drained. They're exhausted just because they're not sleeping. So I'm sure you can make your own list. You don't need me to sit here and tell you why sleep deprivation is hard. That's why you are all here. But it's really important that you also ensure your child gets sufficient sleep so that way they are not going to be completely sleep deprived. And the way you can ensure that, all of you who asked your questions or anyone watching this replay, is by making sure you make a solid game plan, because it's not going to magically self-correct. You can't just magically expect like the bedtime fairies. Trust me, I've been waiting for the bedtime fairies for a while. They don't come. The bedtime fairies to magically come into your house and make sure that the magical sprinkled powder is everywhere and everyone's just going to sleep and it's calm. You have to actively take the reins to make it positive, make it work, and make it technically set up so it's not this balancing juggling act, but it's a smooth process and a smooth progression. Okay, so if any of you want some of my help to do this or anything like that, I run my sleep groups. You hear me talk about them sometimes in this group. I am starting my next cycle of sleep groups next week. A lot of you in here have worked with me and have seen results. I do have a few slots still open. So if you're interested in hearing more about my sleep groups, and this is for you, Chrissy, who asked a more specific question with her baby waking up, or if you're having issues with kids waking the other kid up, or you want to sleep through the night, I'll put a link up here to my calendar. Set up a time to chat with me. I will run you through my whole system. I'll tell you about the sleep groups. They start next week. It's basically, in essence, it's my whole program in a 4-week group setting where you have constant access to me. I guide you in everything that we're working through. I'm constantly checking in with you. You have group phone calls with me, and people see amazing results with them. So I only take a set amount of people per group, and I do have a few slots still open to our next group that is starting next week. So if you want to grab one of those spots, I want to talk with you first. I want to talk to you about in all the details of your sleep, talk to you about how this could potentially help you, or maybe why it's not even for you. So if you're interested and you're done with just kind of being exhausted, wishing you could wake up refreshed, and all those things, you can check out that calendar link that I'm going to put up in a minute. If you're watching the replay and you didn't have a chance to ask me your question, put it on in below in the comments, and I will try to hop in and answer you. But otherwise, have an amazing week, an amazing Wednesday, and I hope this helped all of you learn more about siblings, bedtime, and this whole juggling act that should hopefully not become a juggling act soon and become just a smooth, positive process. See you later.